welcome the author of a couple of books, including A Door Made for Me, which is right here. And I Take My Coffee Black, which is audio. I listen to that on audio, best audio book of the year for sure, bar none. Let me welcome the one and only Tyler Merritt.
What is up, Karen, on a Monday? How are you?
What's good? What's good? What's good?
I'm real good. Let me tell you, I had somebody reach out to me on social media a few hours ago, and this is all the message said to me. I love listening to you and Karen on the Karen Hunter Show. That's all she said. I said, I'll be on today. You tuning in? She said, you better believe it. So shout out. You know who you are.
Okay. Well, shout out to everybody. Shoot. I'm grateful. Listen, this thing right here doesn't have to be a thing. It's only a thing because people made a decision. And I'm eternally grateful for everybody that tuned in to 126 8 years ago or 5 years ago or 5 minutes ago. Welcome. Welcome. Everybody that joined Nubia. Thank you. Welcome the narrative people, because y'all know what it is. If you know, you know. Before we get into the stories of the day, this will be our last day talking to each other before the holidays, you and I. And I don't know. I mean, of course, I listen to your books. I know some things about your life, but are there special Merritt traditions for the holiday, especially somebody who has survived or is surviving as kicking cancer's ass as you are every single day you get up? Talk to me about what you do leading into the new year.
So I left my parents' house to go to college in 1994, and every single year, no matter where I am in the world, I always make it back to Las Vegas, Nevada, where my mom and dad are right now. And every Christmas, we do all the things. We're a wake up on Christmas morning and open presents, be in the PJs, all of that. For years and years, we used to do this Christmas Eve party where my mom would have me sit on the stairs and talk to all the neighborhood kids and friends and tell them the birth of Jesus to everybody. Because she was like, look, for some of these kids, this is the only time they'll ever hear this story. And she wasn't wrong. The very first time Karen and I ever told the story, sitting on the stairs, I said to one of the kids, so I gave out candy canes as a gift for people answering the questions, because I'd make it trivia, right? And so I was explaining the candy cane and how the red in the candy cane is for the blood of Christ. And this little kid was like, I didn't know that. And I said, well, do you know how Jesus died? And this kid raised his hand and said, Uncle Tata, I do. I know how Jesus died. And I said, what's that, Jordan? He said, by drive-by. And that's when I realized I need to help these kids understand a little bit of history.
I feel like there's a gospel song in there somewhere. Jesus died in a drive-by. I think Shirley Caesar should work on that as the next Christmas song, Jesus in a drive-by. And it was Herod and them horrible ass people in his community that rather have a murderer than Jesus released from the cross. And it could be Jesus. It was a drive-by.
Right.
They could work that out.
Shirley Caesar could sell it. So every year I go home, Jordan is an adult now. He has his own kids. And to this day, we joke to him about him talking about Jesus being killed in a drive-by. All that to say, I have all the traditions and they all circulate around being home in Las Vegas with family.
I love it. I love it. Now, are you a resolution type of dude? Are you a goal setting right now, this time of year, heading into the new year? Are you setting goals?
It's so funny you asked me that, because I was just thinking about this. I don't necessarily set resolutions, but I do get very pensive, like on New Year's. Like I get really deep into my thoughts. And something that I do every year is probably around the 30th or 31st, I'll make a video on my phone, right? And I'll talk to the phone like to myself, and I'll say, Tyler, this is where you are right now. And I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember what you're feeling. I want you to remember what you're going through. In theory, Karen, the idea is to record that so a year from now, I can look back and watch that. But I never have the guts to go back and watch that thing from a year ago. I never have. Every single time I've made it,
So do you delete them? What do you do with the video?
No, they're on my phone. Like I can legit go back and probably watch 6 years worth now, but
do that. I demand that you do that. I feel like, what's the point? I mean, I do every year. I journal. I don't journal. Well, I do journal. Let me just say it is journaling, even though I think journaling is for other people. Like, when I think of journaling, I think of I don't think of us. You know what I'm
I
saying?
hear you. I hear you. It's for other people.
So,
Okay.
so I set my intention, but I'm detailed too, because I feel like when you ask, seek, and knock, you should be very specific about the things that you're asking, seeking, and knocking for, right? So I'm very detailed, and like, not just I'm gonna save, but I'm gonna save, and here's how, and this is where I'm going to invest. Like, I mapped out 4 stocks that I'm going to invest in, and then I came up with the brilliant idea, because the stock market is trash right now. Oh, I could set market limits now for some ridiculously low amount, you know, and then I have the whole 12 months, because it's going to be some horrible crash between now and next January.
Right.
Let me do it now and just let it ride. Let it ride.
Right.
Market limits, do limits, put the price in, put how many shares, and then I don't have to think about it and watch the market every day and give myself, agita and anxiety, and just know that I'm collecting these stocks for not now, for 10 years from now. And this is how many shares I want in each of these positions. And this is what they're going to yield, because I have a, a dividend yield goal for the year. I want, but that requires, again, some deep dive. So like, I'm very specific about the things that I want to accomplish, but I'm also reasonable. Like, these are things that I absolutely can accomplish, but now I'm gonna put it on automatic.
What year were you when you really kind of delved in on how to deal with your money that kind of way? Like, how old are you? Do you remember?
Yesterday. No. So I have several iterations of that. In my 20s, I got handed $1 million from a group of investors on Bear Stearns, and they just gave me 10 of them gave me $100,000 each and put it in my bank account to do whatever I wanted with no direction. I was like, who gives a 20-something-year-old? Okay. Well, but you, in your 20s, you think you know. So you're like, yeah, I'm a mogul. I'm gonna, sure. Here's $250,000 for a website. Here, let me hire all of these people and give them benefits. And, I didn't know whether they could do the job. And apparently they couldn't. They waited for me, which is something I want to talk about. I'm like, this is your area, make it work. And then it was like, nothing was happening. And I was like, damn, okay, this is interesting. Somebody handed me a job to do and I could do whatever I wanted in it, I would rock that out. But nah, what are we doing today? I was like, oh, okay. So I learned early, not everybody's necessarily wired to be on their own to do things, which we're going to talk about with Kindred. But so I lost all of that, came back, invested in some other businesses, lost, came back. And the last time that I got put on my ass, I was like, this will never happen again. So then I went on it. So it was in my late 30s where I read every book. I reread Napoleon Hill, read all the Susie Orman, read all of David Bach, read everything I could get my hands on. Automatic Millionaire Next Door. I'm like, okay, all right. But then it was never really about money. It was about my relationship. What is it that I want? Because it's not money. I'm not driven by money. I realize that too. So that's another thing. Is it the money or is it the security? Is it the money or is it the power to be able to be free? Is it the freedom or is it the money? It's the freedom. Wow. So can I manifest the freedom without having? Yes, you can. You can be free with being a thousandaire. I promise you. You don't need million. Everyone thinks I need $10 million. If you ask people what their number is, most people don't know how much they need to walk away from their job and never have to work again. And it's not millions if you are very strategic. So strategic also means paying off your mortgage, no car payment. Biggie told us that condo paid for, except for the person, locked up in the Brooklyn basement. I followed that. I ain't locked nobody up in the Brooklyn basement, but I'm like, okay. Right. And then I had a conversation with Chris. Do we talk about? Yeah, we could still talk about him. The booming voice. I'm looking behind me because I usually have a bunch of his books, but he was from the Dave Ramsey's camp and is not any longer in that camp, but he's been on the show multiple times. I had a town hall with him and he was like, why do you have a mortgage? Within mortgage is death. Death is in the word morte, which, it's like, it's right there. Right. For 30 years, you're going to be locked to something and they could, any point in time could be like, run me my check and you don't have it. They could take I was like, you know what? That's going to be my goal. So that became a goal, like pay off. Cause then you have, what's your monthly nut for? Most of it is housing. Most of it is rent or mortgage, right? And insurance and all the things, taxes and all the things that go with it. But if you don't have that, then you're like really free. So that's been kind of the journey that I've been on. And then acquiring real estate and then paying off the real estate and selling real estate.
I'll tell you what's beautiful, and I think should be a big moral of the story that I think we don't look at in the big picture is that you have been betting on yourself for a long time. You've been betting on yourself for a really long time. And I think sometimes that when we do that, we don't even realize that that's what's happening, right? Because we're just living life. But somewhere in your 20s, you put a bet on yourself, and no matter how it went up and down or how, where it was, you continued with that continued bet. And I know there's individuals that are listening right now who have been like, God, I hope I can get there. I want to get there. I want to be there. And maybe even feel like they passed the age where they can't do that anymore. But I think you're making a very strong point on, you don't even know the number of what that is for you to be able to do that, right? And it's really more of, I really do believe it's a heart thing more than it is anything else. And you have to have that security. Don't get me wrong. Like, I ain't trying to be like, go quit your job right now. But you just talk through how you had to read, you had to learn, you had to educate. So if you're going to bet on yourself, bet, but go in there smart.
Yeah. And it also builds a certain kind of muscle, which I want to talk with you about. I just finished the Hulu series Kindred. Now, I've read the book, Octavia Butler, the great Octavia Butler. I remember throwing my Kindle across the room at something, well, not literally, because I ain't trying to break my Kindle, but I was mad reading the book. So I was like, am I going to be mad? Because I ain't still finished. I ain't still finished Emancipation. I'm just like, all right, I'm going for 10 minutes. Okay, 5. Okay.
Right.
All right, I'm going to go back. But I haven't gone back yet. I'm like 10 minutes in and I can't go back. So then I started Kindred and I was like, Jesus, am I going to be on a plantation for the rest of my life? And then an epiphany happened, because it's going to be a season 2, the way they ended it. I know how the story ends because I finished the book,
Sure.
But it keeps raising this question of freedom. Like, what does freedom look like for us? Do we even know what it means? Is it comfort? Because freedom is tough. Like, to your point, like I've been mighty low. And nobody was there because nobody checks on you. Nobody, I promise you. And you just like, oh, but here's what I also know. At the worst, it's going to rain on you. The worst rain we ever had was 40 days and 40 nights. We can survive that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The worst you can get is 40 days and 40 nights. According to the Bible, that's the most horrible rain. But we mostly don't like to sit in discomfort. I ain't trying to look for discomfort. Let me just say that out my mouth, which is why I never pray for patience. I never pray for patience, ever. I ain't even trying to have it, because then the world's going to give you everything that's going to test it. Nope, I'm good with my lack of patience. That said, you also don't know your capacity until you sit in it for a minute, right? Sit in that thing, whatever that thing is, because it's going to rain on you're going to be in a valley. Can you sit through it, get through it to the other side? I think about how many times Harriet Tubman went back to get people, including her own family, and it was too hard. Like her own brothers were like, oh, we got to go through the swamp.
Right.
Oh, it's cold. At least Massa give us victuals. We gotta look for our own food. At least it's warm. We can set a fire. I can't believe I'm out here. And people went back to slavery.
Right.
But we say this like, some of y'all ain't enslaved right now. We say that as if some of y'all ain't enslaved to your debt, to your spouse, to your job, to your children. And Michelle Obama will tell you, these children are terrorists. She said that. We're going to talk about that. Some of us are in debt, in bondage right now, and it's comfortable.
Right.
So we sit in it.
Right.
Being boiled 1 degree at a time, sitting in that situation, because freedom is tough. But once you free. Okay.
Can I ask you about Kindred for a second? Because I haven't read the book, and I'll be honest with you, I just started it, right? So when I tell you I just started it, I'm in like episode 1, living the Dana story. She meets the dude, and I haven't got through yet, so I don't exactly know what's going to happen. But I have a little bit of an idea of what the overall theme is. What would you say for those who haven't seen it yet or don't exactly have a reference for it, what would you say is the overall tone of Kindred or theme?
So Octavia Butler tells a story of a young woman, and they modernized it. So whoever picked up the writing pen I'm giving them a little bit of a little bit of applause because I feel like they made it. They did not dishonor Octavia Butler. But the story is about a girl who supernaturally gets pulled back into 1812. I think it is 1812.
Mm-hmm.
And when she gets pulled back the first time, she's there to rescue a little baby.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay. All right. So we don't know yet, but in the book, she keeps going back. She keeps going back, Tyler. And you're like, okay. And you find out midway that this child is her ancestor.
Sure.
This white child on this plantation grows up to be a man who is the owner of who obviously has a relation similar to Thomas Jefferson with a Black person who's in bondage. And she wouldn't be here if not for that union. So, initially I'm like, F them, go back. Next time you get pulled back in, set the whole plantation on fire, get everybody to freedom, slit everybody, do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's out, and then go to the next plantation, and just free everybody. And then, but if she did that, if she did something or did not help this master,
sure,
she wouldn't exist. So I'm gonna tell you, Octavia's book would be 1 page long because Karen Hunter would be like, "Oh, I could not exist. I'm okay. I'm if I'm here, everybody's gonna be free, and then I just won't exist in the future. And oh well, because these motherfuckers going down."
Right.
But she's telling a larger story. So I think the larger story is we all have these. I feel like we all have these slave fantasies. Black people. Like if I were in that ship, if I were in that boat, it wouldn't have gone down like that. If they came to my village, I would have, I would have got it. And if I ended up I would have been Nat Turner or something. No, you wouldn't have. You would have been doing what millions and millions and millions of your ancestors did for 400 years, 300 plus years. You would have picked that cotton, picked that tobacco, dried it, did whatever, got raped, man, or you'd have been at the mercy of a system that was designed to put you at the mercy, period.
Wow.
And this is what I think we end up seeing is that people figure out how to be comfortable in this situation, right? Even if it's not.
Yeah. Good. I think that's an interesting question, even to y'all listening right now. Like, what do you think you would do? I heard a really interesting statistic recently where if you asked men if a plane crash were to happen, do you think you would survive? Like 98% of men are like, yeah, I'd survive in a plane crash. Like men are like, yeah, I would do everything I can, right? And that's just, statistically, that's just not how it would work. And women feel differently about it, right? And I do think that there's something about us as Black folks that feel like if we were in a slave scenario, that we would, be that guy who'd be like, I'm taking you out, massa, but, we live in a time period now where we aren't fighting for things that are right in front of us.
This is what I want to say. And this, I think, is Octavia Butler, genius, brilliant, her mind, her imagination, incredible, that people right now listening to my voice are in bondage. And you're not doing anything about it. And we probably, let me tell you, we're in a time that is, we have more access to more things and more opportunities than any time in modern history in the last 500 years to do things. Yet we aren't doing the things that Robert Church did. We aren't doing things that, I can go down a list of Annie Malone and other folk, the doctors and all of the, wonderful people that did things in bondage when everybody else was in bondage or in Jim Crow. We aren't even doing those things. We bitch and complain, and we are still with the mentality. So what I was asking this question, because I keep coming back to this question, and we're here. Tyler Merritt is here. Yeah, we're going to talk about Trump's raggedy ass and a bunch of other stuff. Well, I was like, how could a system that required the cooperation of warring factions, Portugal, Spain, Great Britain, France, people that didn't like each other, fighting each other for hundreds of years, how did they come up with a system so masterfully that gave us banking? I'm reading a book about the Brown brothers And first pages, I'm learning both Brown brothers weren't horrible. One of them actually didn't want this bondage thing. I was like, oh, I always thought both of them were conspired. No. So there's like, how did they come together to develop a system that gave us insurance, banking, capitalism, like in its modern form, all on the backs of Africa? Africans understood that. How was that able to happen? And I come back to, couple of things: the lack of unity, right? The lack of community, the fact that people could live next door to each other because there were no borders back then. Ain't nobody have a Benin and a Togo and a Senegal and a Ghana and a Ivory Coast and a Nigeria. None of those things existed. It was just one landmass, but there were so many enemies among this huge continent of billions of people. Right. I'm gonna say it, that they didn't see each other as one. So what the warring factions figured out is, we can be one. Let's call it whiteness. Come on, y'all, stop. Because they got gold in them there. Right. Mansa Musa just went across and destabilized gold. Wait a minute, Portugal. Wait a minute. Did he just destabilize the entire gold market, one man? Right. What's in Mali? Let's go explore. Let's see. Oh, these people, they don't like the people next door. They don't like their neighbor. They don't like, oh, okay, let's get them a little something. Here's some guns. Here's something that you ain't never seen before that you don't need. Right. Here's something useless. Bring me some of the people that you fighting with. And then Spain was like, word, okay, we're gonna go explore. Columbus, go over here. Oh, bring us back some people. I know Indian, native, indigenous people. And then it was off to the right. And then France was like, word, oh, okay, wait a minute. Hold my beer. Right. And it was off to the races. We're all white. Okay. And don't tell them that they're all black, because we're going to put them in a category, but don't tell them, because they giving us people, man, this is juicy. So number one, that. But once they got us in bondage, with a couple of exceptions, because they figured some things out, Haiti really shook the world. It's like, too many Negroes on one place. They could communicate. No drums, no more drums, no more communication. We're not going to have 300 people to one or two of us. Nope, let's break them up. So America, it was an average of 10. People don't even realize what these large plantations, the average per person was like 9 or 10 per plantation, with several overseers. And then you indoctrinate, like they did in Africa, the black folk to oversee the other black folk. How beautiful is that? And we're off to the races. So if we can get, so I came to the conclusion today, after I finished Kindred, that most of us are descendants of people that laid down. 866-801-8255, that accepted their condition of bondage, that didn't fight back, that were okay, because I just got to preserve my babies. We are the descendants of that. Most of us are not the descendants of people that jumped from the ship. We are not, because they didn't survive. We are not. We survived, and I'm grateful for the survival. I'm grateful, but there's a mentality that's required of you accepting a condition of bondage for 300 plus years. There's something to be said for that, and that's in our DNA. And what do we do about that? Like, that's right. Because we still work? Are we? A plantation full of Harriet Tubmans wasn't going to work. I promise you, slavery would have lasted maybe a couple of months. Right.
No, and then we are still left eating chitlins.
Come on.
And because we have become comfortable in the place that we are, and we aren't able to see what excelling looks like. And I will say this, though. I would say we are living in a time period where many Black folks have risen above, have fought in different, who have taken on different places, who have gone into politics. We look at the John Lewises of the world, right? Who have a tied-in history of fighting. And we do have those modern individuals.
Hold on. You got your head bashed in, bloody. While one could argue that was non-violent resistance, and that in itself is an act of defiance, that's not fighting.
But no, listen, I'm going to push back on that. You want to know why? The difference between someone who's getting their head beat in and is laying down and John Lewis is he did not stop. He didn't stop. That wasn't the end of his story. On some levels, that was the beginning.
I'm gonna ask you this then. We're gonna have a conversation today.
Let's go. This is why I love being on the show.
And this is why I think deeply about this topic, because I feel like we're at the precipice of actually cracking something open if we get this one thing, or else we're gonna go right back. We've had shades of it, 1920s shades, I promise you, 19 teens and right after Reconstruction, shades of it, 80s actually, opportunity, here comes crack, right? Every time there's something, George Floyd, opportunities, and then we in the streets, and it's right back. In 2024, is this political system a tool for freedom or a mechanism to keep the status quo?
Okay, people can't see you taking a sip right now, but you really did take a sip like you just shut it down with that question.
I ain't shut it down. I asked a question. I'm just asking a question because you telling me this man went into politics. God bless him. What changed? What changed in his district? Is his district a glowing example of? I asked that about all of the people who y'all love. The Maxine Waters. What does his district look like? I know what Charlie Rangel's district look like. What?
I'm gonna say this straight out, specifically with John Lewis. I want me, Tyler Merritt, and I'll tell you after, you know my story. I got cancer 2 years ago. It was right around this time. In fact, 2 years ago, almost the date I had surgery. I remember going dark and thinking, if I don't wake up out of this, what will be left over of me? What will people have said that I had done? And when I began asking that question, I found myself going, who am I looking at as people that I would want to mirror, right? And I'm going to say this, and I will take this, I will fight this. This is something a hill I'll die on, that if anything, John Lewis is a picture of what I would like to be in the future. I would like to be known as someone who took some of the worst of life and was able to turn that into lessons and into movements and into conversation and to be able to motivate. His words motivated people like me. I remember the first time I met him, and my story there was really casual because my mom, you read about my mom, she's low-key gangster. And I went home to Las Vegas and she was like, yeah, I'm going to this thing where John Lewis is at. And I was like, can I go? She was like, man, I met him a couple times now. I'm like, Mom, it's John Lewis. She's like, whatever, right? Because she's low-key like that. But I went and I took a picture with him. I have him, I'll send it to you. And I'm sitting here feeling like I'm standing next to a superhero. But listen, I'm aware of the fact that he didn't change the whole world. But to me, he gave me the strength to believe that I could be more. And I think as we look back historically, if Harriet Tubman is anything, she's a conversation we're having about what we can be. And I think that matters.
Yes, for the individual inspiration. But individuals never beat institutions.
You are not wrong.
What I'm talking about is, where's our, we can point to individuals that are inspiring. We can sit here all day and do that. Where's the system that will eradicate the condition, the constant turn of oppression and degradation? And, they'll give you a little peek, let you in, and then boom, here we come again. Where's the system, right?
I would say certain individuals can begin a movement. I'm going to use a small example. I'm going to use a really small example, because I think it is fair to say in the big, huge, wide picture, how far have we come in asking lots of questions, but I'm going to use this as a singular thing. Individuals who sat at bar stools during the civil rights movement and fought to be able to sit in a restaurant and to be able, there are kids now who never have a picture in their mind what that was ever like. That was a system, though, Tyler Merritt. That was a system created by the Urban League that trained people how to go down from the Freedom Rise to those lunch counter demonstrations. And they had
they knew what they were going to do. After you four get your heads bashed in, here comes another four. After you four, here comes another four. And they had a system in place. I can't name you the people that got beat up at lunch counters.
But I absolutely guarantee that those people can name the individuals that put their butts in the seats.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What I'm saying is, again,
and we may not be able to.
Let me just.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear, because we're going to go to a break, and I'm going to put the question out. I am not denigrating anyone that survived the Middle Passage or survived 300-400 years of enslavement, bondage, and all of that. I'm not denigrating. I'm asking a question about forward, right?
Yeah.
And yes, there's something to be said for survival. That's in us. System building is there too, but we don't lean. We let too much yeast into the batter. Do you know what I'm saying? We let too many outside things that will not maybe yeast is not even a good example, other than it ends up taking over the whole damn thing.
Sure.
We let too much poison in. How about that? You know, to be really clear, and we're not absolute about what the system is for ourselves. Like, to build a system for your own survival, not even survival, your freedom. What's your freedom system? Have you built it? Do you know what it looks like? You know, I'm walking this morning and I'm like, okay, I know what I want to do this year in terms of my physical. And I had a number. I'm listening to this book, and the person reading the book, because it's audio, said the exact number that I said in my own spirit. And I was like, confirmation. Okay, I know what I need to do now. So, but I'm saying even that now, so I had to come back and jot down, how do I get there? Do you know? That's what system is, right? How do I, this is the goal. How do I get there? What are the steps? And is it duplicatable? Can I now share it with people? And that's where I am, right? Can I share this system so that other people can benefit from it? That's where I want us to, not that John Lewis is a great man. Yes.
Yeah, of course. I don't think anybody's questioning that, but I think you're asking a very fair question of where are the systems in place outside of the individuals, right? And that's where I say, I do think that there are some systems that have been built because we are able to identify that change, but I do think we have a long, long way to go.